This podcast is sponsored by nobody.
Hey dudes, this is Tiffany Paulson, Susie in Friday the 13th Part 8, and you're listening to Tommy Throwback Kovac on Splat from the Past.
Hey dudes, welcome to Splat from the Past, the only 80s themed horror sci-fi show where things can get totally radical. Now today I will be introducing you to Saffron Henderson, the beautiful, talented daughter of Bill Henderson of the Canadian progressive rock band Chilliwack, the band who went poppy in 1981, and they had a classic MTV hit, My Girl Gone, Gone, Gone. Such a great song. And Saffron is a voiceover actress and an on-camera actress. She played the teenage rocker chick, JJ, in Friday the 13th Part 8, Jason Takes Manhattan, aka Jason Takes Ontario, as I call it. And she plays the younger version of Gina Davis's character in The Fly 2. She was in the Ted Danson, Isabel Rossellini comedy Cousins. She guest starred on all the Stephen J. Cannell shows that were shot up in Canada: 21 Jump Street, Wise Guy, JJ Starbuck. And yeah, she's done voices for cartoons like Dragon Ball, G.I. Joe Extreme. Um, let's see what else. Ninja Turtles: The Next Mutation. Lots of cartoons, lots of like 90s versions of cartoons I grew up on in the 80s that I just didn't watch. I wasn't too familiar with. They weren't on my radar and stuff. And it's going to be a great conversation today, nevertheless. I can't wait. Halloween October is ending on a high note. It's been a fantastic month. Wait till you see who I got tomorrow for my powerhouse Halloween guest. You 80s kids will be howling, no pun intended, with delight. So yeah, here is my interview with Saffron Henderson. So, going back in time, I can imagine growing up the daughter of Bill Henderson, the lead singer of Chilliwack, that it was only natural that you would gravitate toward showbiz as well.
Yeah, it really was. I mean, I had a live model of the fact that you can have a crazy career and a family. So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, did you go on tour with him growing up?
No, I was in the studio with him. So we got to experience that and like play Atari while they were recording
Wow.
or in the day. And get fired from doing hand claps on the records. I think there was at least 2 records I got fired from doing hand claps.
Really?
Eventually I got to sing backup vocals with them.
Wow.
So, yeah, and we got to see some shows, but really our childhood was him on the road and us at home more than that.
Yeah, I love Canadian rock bands. I'm into like the Guess Who, Rush, Triumph,
Oh, right on.
April
Right
Wine,
on.
Moxie, Trooper, Saga, Honeymoon Suite. I mean, Canada had so many great rock bands. You know, yeah, my dad was in a rock band when I was a kid, and they weren't household names like Chilliwack, but I'd go to the rehearsals. They had a mini refrigerator full of sodas, and I'd be drinking like out of them and stuff because I was really bored.
Cool.
Yeah, I was bored watching my dad's band play because I'd rather see Def Leppard or Bon Jovi or somebody as a kid.
Well, I get it. I get it. They did a show at the Coliseum here in Vancouver, and it was on my 11th birthday.
Uh,
And Sammy Hagar was playing. He had
mhm.
a solo thing at that point, and Jerry Doucette and Chilliwack. And my mom made me a white satin blouse and a black velvet vest.
Mhm.
And I had braces, and we got a limo ride to the Coliseum.
Nice.
And that was the peak experience, right?
Mhm.
And then he dedicated the song that I hate the most that he wrote to me. Um,
Which one?
and I was just dying in the back of the Coliseum, hoping no one saw me.
What song was that?
Oh my gosh. Okay. It was this song called Fall in Love.
Uh
And it goes, and he sounded like a total girl on it. Like, I
huh.
used to, when I was in like grade, I don't know, like 1 or something, we did like the What Does Your Dad Do for a Living Day?
Hmm.
And people's dad were like a fireman or a garbage man or a policeman or a teacher.
Hmm.
And I was like, my dad's a singer, and we had to show something from their job, and so I like brought a record, and they played a song, and all the kids went, he sounds like a girl.
Oh God.
And in this song called Fall in Love was like, I have a cold right now, so I probably can't sing it, but he was like, fall in love, we don't have to fall in love, like that. And I was like,
Oh.
bleh. It was so girly.
Oh my God, that is humiliating.
And then he dedicated that song to me at the concert. And I was just saying, there's all these guys with huge Dayton boots and leather jackets. And it was a terrifying concert, really. All these rock people were so scary to me when I was 11. And I'm just standing there cowering in the back going, everybody knows. Everybody knows. They're going to stare at me. But they didn't. I'm just some little 11-year-old puke standing at the back. They didn't even know I was there. And I was
Wow.
just blushing hard.
Yeah. Oh my God, traumatizing. I I first
I know.
I first became aware of them when I was 11, watching VH1 The Big 80s, and I saw the video for
Mm.
My Girl, Gone, Gone, Gone. You know, I've gone in recent years back and listened to the early records. Oh my God, they remind me of Pink Floyd and Moody Blues. They're very ahead of their time, very avant-garde, progressive rock. I love those actually more than the pop stuff later.
I do too. I do too.
Hmm.
It's like a rich collection of music, and I'm sure it's the same with your dad. Like when he was playing, probably the material was like that's the material that you connect with now, right? Like way, way back when you were a kid.
Well, they were doing horrible hard rock heavy metal covers, and
Oh,
they were doing their own original songs, but they were kind of awful. I'll tell you.
well,
Yeah,
it doesn't matter. I think music is one of those things. If you're digging it and you're playing it, it's amazing.
absolutely.
Period. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where did your name come from?
Oh well. Um, I mean, they were dyed in the wool hippies, like real hippies, like
Hmm.
not free love hippies, like live off the land hippies.
Hmm.
And they denied for several years that it was from the Donovan song, but it totally was.
Yeah. It's a pretty name. I
So
like it a
mellow
lot.
yellow. Oh, thank you. It was a really problematic when I was a child.
Why would they call you?
Well, they tried Sofa and Sapphire,
Sapphire was the
and
one that came
mostly
to
it was
mind.
just
Yeah.
yeah, mostly it was just that when I would tell them my name, they would go, "What? That's weird." And I'd go, "Yeah." We were the freaks who used to live in a teepee,
Hmm.
and I had like stringy long hair and like secondhand store like thrift clothing and
Hmm.
buck teeth and just like I was not going to have friends. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
We were a weird family.
I totally get it. Oh my God. Yeah.
But it all worked out.
It sure did. So in all this weirdness, did you get to do any school plays or community theater growing up?
Yeah. Yeah, I got to do both really. And the community theater was like musical theater and then I did a couple of actual touring shows, which was fun.
Hmm.
So that was part of growing up, singing and dancing and acting. My parents were so supportive in that they let us try anything that we thought could be fun. And so we had this incredible enrichment of piano lessons and acting lessons and singing and dancing and showbiz.
Yeah.
And, my sister is not as fond of performing as I am, but
Mhm.
she's really talented and beautiful singer. And she was a beautiful dancer too. She had the great extension, and I was just like, I was straight showbiz.
Mhm.
My my talents lie in loving communicating. So whether it's dancing or singing or acting, that's my happy place. And
Mhm.
yeah, we were really supported in that. In fact, at one point, my mom did headshots of my sister and I and had us audition for commercials and TV to
Mhm.
pay for our dance classes because there wasn't a lot of money.
Mhm.
So we also supported ourselves in that way.
Yeah. What were the shows that you two were in?
Oh my goodness. Well, my sister was in a really sweet Canadian, very Canadian movie called My American Cousin.
Uh huh.
Um, and I we did a show called Danger Bay in Canada.
Oh
It was
yeah.
really funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I did 21 Jump Street a few times.
Oh yeah.
Um, with Johnny and the gang.
Yep.
Let's see.
You got to do all
And
those Stephen J. Cannell shows that were shot up in Canada. That's crazy.
yes. Yes, and apparently he said something really weird and inappropriate
Really.
about me that I heard through the grapevine.
Mm-hmm.
That was so weird to me because I hadn't actually met him, of course.
Mm-hmm.
And he said that I had the best mouth in showbiz. It's so gross.
My God.
It's just gross.
Yeah. Oh my God, that's awful. That
It
guy.
is, but yeah, I think he probably thought he was being very complimentary.
Yeah. Well, he had dyslexia, so he probably had somewhat of an autistic streak. But the guy, God, he was a genius. He wrote very well for a guy with dyslexia. He had all these flawed
Mhm.
characters that had strengths within themselves. I mean, he was just
Yeah,
amazing. Yeah, I'm sorry you had that
yeah.
experience, though.
Oh no, I mean I didn't. It was through the grapevine, so it was harmless.
Hmm.
It was just that it was just part of like the mass objectification of women, especially young women,
Hmm.
in show business that was just like absolutely thriving at that time, like the 80s.
Hmm.
Like I stopped doing film and TV largely because I kept getting like assaulted, killed, giving birth to a larva and dying,
Yeah.
pregnant, like just all kinds of really super female, super kind of sexualized, but never, I didn't have to be an actual hooker,
Yeah.
but kind of like uncomfortable,
Right.
like that's just I was a day player. So they would cast all the big roles in LA,
Hmm.
and then whoever needed to get killed first could be cast up here.
Yeah. It's crazy. Yeah, I saw
Yeah.
I saw the JJ Starbuck episode you did on YouTube the other day. You sing the
Oh no.
Spangled Banner loudly.
Yeah, it was funny. They were like, just be really brassy. Well, okay.
Did that require a lot of takes?
No, we didn't do a ton of takes. It was a quick, efficient shoot.
Hmm.
So I don't even know how that came out. I never saw it. I hope it wasn't too bad.
It was okay. Sean Weatherly was on that show. She was one of my earliest interviews, actually.
Ah,
She loved working with Dale Robertson on that show. You did those two episodes of 21 Jump Street. Yeah, I know people who were in those episodes as well. Beverly Elliott was in the first one.
I love her.
She's
Yeah.
awesome. And the second one, Peter Fox, Doug McKeon, Deborah Goodrich, who I adore,
Yeah.
was in that
Yeah.
one. Deborah writes novels now, and every time she has a new one out, she sends it to me.
Oh, that's very cool.
Yeah. What
Your
was?
showbiz roots are deep, huh?
Oh yeah, they've gotten even deeper in the last 7 years that I've been doing the podcast.
Hmm. Hmm.
What was Depp like? Was he quiet?
Um, he was brooding.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just say brooding. And he was feeling very charismatic.
Yeah.
So he was. I remember one on one of the shoots. He was always nice to me,
Mm-hmm.
but he knocked on my door, on the trailer door,
Mm-hmm.
and I was kind of like, oh God, because it was him and a few of the other boys,
Uh-huh.
and they knock on the door, and I open the door, and I'm like, hi, and he goes, how would you like to date Dom DeLuise's son? And I went, I'm good, thanks, so bye.
Yeah.
And he was just a little, he liked to stir it up a little.
Mm-hmm.
He liked to stir it up, and the next time I worked with him, I can't remember, I did have a scene with him, but he was funny. He was sitting in a director's chair going, well, are you even going to say hi? Or something like that. Like, he was just very brooding. But not unfriendly, just teasing and brooding. He was just like a little star. Well, he was a star, so
Yeah.
it was pretty funny. He was funny. They were all funny.
Mm-hmm. Holly Robinson Pete.
Yeah.
She's gorgeous.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely gorgeous.
Was she nice to work with?
Oh yeah. I didn't really have scenes with her. I can't remember if I had scenes with her. Maybe I did. Very easy.
Yeah, because
Everyone on that show was really easy to act with. They had it down. They knew what they were doing. You know, we were just walking in as a guest, and they were solid. It was good.
yeah. In that first episode, yeah, Tracy Lynn is the girl that she kind of mentors, and she ends up, dressing more cool and being more confident in that episode.
Yeah, yeah. And now I see Peter DeLuise around Vancouver with his wife Anne Marie sometimes.
Oh, crazy coincidence.
Isn't that funny? Like, I'll be at someone's house and they'll be there. I'm like, oh my God. Yeah.
How about Wise Guy?
Oh, that one's rough.
Uh-huh.
That was rough. That
My,
was really rough.
my parents were obsessed with this show when I was growing up. Like, it was always Wise Guy this, Wise Guy that. It was like their favorite show.
Oh my gosh. That was one of the experiences. That one and Unsub were two experiences that made me want to quit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But it's okay. It's just that, yeah. I auditioned for Wise Guy, being told I was going to be like a flamenco dancer.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, oh, cool. I love flamenco. I had been in Spain as a showgirl when I was 17. And I was like, this will be great.
Mm-hmm.
And because that music and that dancing is just so cool. And so, like, I wore a flowing skirt and did my audition for them. And they were like, great, thanks. We'll be in touch. And then they call and they're like, we'd like to book you for that. And my agent tells me, that I'll be dancing in the show. And I'm like, oh, great. And I go there and they go to the wardrobe trailer. And I go there and they put me in this, like, really, I was like, okay, this is kind of flamenco. Like, it's like a tight black top of it with like ruffles, big sequined ruffles in bright colors. And I was like, oh, cool. And then while I'm standing there, they're cutting the dress in half. I'm like, huh? And pretty soon the top part of it is a very small and the bottom part of it is a whole other thing. And my belly button is showing. And I'm like, can I hear the music for this?
Yeah.
And in the makeup trailer, I asked for the music. And they were like, actually, no, it's going to be live. And I was like, oh, well, there's a flamenco band? And they're like, not really, no. So I go outside. This was being shot at Stanley Park. And so it was an indoor shoot, but we were just all gathered around outside. And they take me to a sax player who's a young guy that I know. from the music scene, and they've powdered his hair so it's white. So he's like an old sax player with a fedora on.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, where's the rest of the band? And they're like, he's it. And then he starts playing like slinky slow music on his saxophone, and I'm like, this is not flamenco. And the director goes, so it's a bachelor party. And I'm like, crap. And you're gonna like dance down the room, and you're looking at the guy at the end of the table. I don't even remember who it was. I don't even remember. I have blocked out some of this.
Yeah.
And the whole way, you know what's going to happen. You know what's going to happen. And he starts talking like actually like almost inappropriately. And then he looks at me and he goes, how old are you? And I go, 18. And he goes, oh my God. And I'm like, why am I here? And I had to like wind up in the guy's lap or something. It was awful. And then at the craft table, one of the guys around the table tried to give me his hotel room key. And I just was hurt as a human. And I just was like, no thanks, I'm good, I'm celibate. And he goes, you know what he said to me? He goes, what? Yeah, celibate here, celibate there.
Oh my God, when I hear stories like these, it just makes me want to protect you. You know, it's just so awful hearing stuff like that.
We just couldn't. I know we couldn't be protected at the time because we wanted to work, and so we were there to be directed. And even another director asked me out after filming an assault scene on a pool table and with my clothes all ripped up, and he's like, hey, do you want to go for a drink? And I was just like, no. No, I don't. I'm going home. I'm going to feel assaulted for a while, thanks. So but I was just so young, I probably just said, oh no thanks.
Yeah. Everybody's wired.
It was a weird time.
Yeah. Everybody's wired differently, you know. I mean, there's actresses that probably enjoyed, you know, stuff like this, but yeah, I mean, when I hear like what you experienced, it's just it's heartbreaking. And James Whitmore Jr. is the one who directed that episode.
Right. And not a bad person. Just it was just unfortunate. It's just unfortunate situation for me to be in. And I don't think that, I kind of feel like nowadays on a set, I'm not sure that anyone would let that happen. Yeah. And I think that directors would think twice before some of the way that, you know, they spoke to me, or what, you know, that they weren't maybe super professional all the time.
Intimacy coordinators. Yeah,
there's intimacy coordinators, but they didn't have that, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But there's also just, people are just aware, like, this is a young person on your set, you know, like, easy. And I think that wasn't there. And I don't think it's exclusive to young women at all. I think it's young people.
Yeah, you also guest starred on The New Adventures of Beans Baxter,
which I totally don't remember.
Wow. Jason Priestley was in that episode. And I know Stu Fracken, who was on that show, played Woodshop. He's a great guy. And Steve Holland was the creator, producer. He did some of the best teen movies of the 80s, Better Off Dead, One Crazy Summer, and How I Got Into College. Yeah.
Yeah. That's just so crazy. You know all the shows.
Yep.
Very cool.
I think Cousins is a very underrated rom-com. Tell me about making it.
Oh, it was one of those film sets that is so blissfully peaceful from my perspective, that you would think that this is a really fun job. They had me there for 19 days, which they certainly didn't need. But Joel Schumacher was like, I just want to have everybody in the cupboard, and I'll bring you out when I need you. So I was supposed to be Isabella Rossellini's cousin. And and I had an amazing time. They were all really sweet and friendly. Um, she especially I found to be one of the most gracious people I've ever met in my life.
Mm-hmm.
Ted Danson was totally friendly, mischievous and friendly. Yeah, they were all sweethearts. And so again, I was like the foolish young woman on that, like getting caught in the closet making out with Gordon Curry.
Yeah, who was also
And
in Jason Takes Manhattan.
so, okay, so here's the weird thing.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell me which was filmed first? Because were they
I
both
I bel
1988?
they're both 1989. They came out. I believe Cousins was filmed first.
Okay, so I had no idea that Gordon was in Friday the 13th. Here's the funny thing.
Mm-hmm.
For that premiere, or I forgot. For that premiere, I crawled out of the movie theater after I got killed
Mm-hmm.
because I realized that I didn't remember how it went after that, and I was going to get really scared, so I left. I was terrified. I didn't want to go at all. Um, because I don't watch scary movies because I stay scared for a very long time.
Mm-hmm.
And I've got one of those brains that thinks it actually happened, and that's actually why I can't be a film actor is
Uh-huh.
I buy in way too hard. But anyway, I was like unaware that Gordon was in that, and I was just at Chiller Theater, that
Yep.
con that's in New Jersey.
Right.
Had an amazing time, so fun, and first horror con, and they're bringing me this book to sign, and I sign it, and then about 10 books into it, I look on the next page and I'm like, oh my gosh, that is Gordon Curry. He was in it too.
Yeah.
So as Martin and I are in a little picture, and then right across from that is a picture of Gordon. And he and I dated.
Mm-hmm.
And I was trying to figure out which came first while I was at Chiller Theater. Which movie came first? Would I have met him on Friday the 13th or Cousins? It was definitely Cousins.
Yeah.
And we dated briefly, and I rode on the back of his little motorbike that he had, like this little, I don't know, Suzuki or Kawasaki, and like we were in the West End in Vancouver, and he would go around the traffic circles really slowly, and we both fell off because he was going so slow.
Yeah.
Oh my God, it was really funny. And it didn't last, too long. We would be better friends probably, but
Yeah.
that was a sweet thing that he was a really nice guy.
I've had Keith Coogan on. He's a great guy too.
Right? Yeah.
Lloyd Bridges was in the movie. God, he's a legend.
Lloyd Bridges was the sweetest. He was so lovely and lovely to sit with, and just so kind.
Yeah, Joel Schumacher, God, he was a fascinating director because, when people think about him, they think of the kind of action thrillers he made, but he was very eclectic. I mean, he did The Incredible Shrinking Woman and St. Elmo's Fire and this. There was more to him than the action thrillers. Yeah.
I know, but it was really fun watching him work.
Mm-hmm.
Really fun. He was expansive, generous. He was creative. He was like, if you had an idea or wanted to try something, he was super receptive.
Mm-hmm.
He was so relaxed, considering, and it might have been that it was this kind of set, right? Like, it was a happy set. But I remember watching him just laying down while we were filming. He'd be like laying on the floor, just chilling.
Yeah, and the Black Bill Henderson plays in the band in the movie.
Well, yeah, isn't it interesting? That was my dad played in the band. Crazy, huh?
Yeah.
That was my actual dad.
Oh, okay. IMDb is never right. They said that the black musician actor Bill Henderson played in the band.
No,
Okay,
no.
yeah, he's the
He's
he's the cop who's having car trouble in the Clue movie. So, yeah.
Oh, no, yeah, that was a different, that was my dad, and it was just, was more than one band, I think. So,
Okay, it's been a while since I've seen
but
the movie, so that's why I'm going on that.
dad and I was singing in clubs around that time, and
Hmm.
I think that it was the band that I was playing with, which was dad's band.
Yeah,
Um,
his other band
so
after
yeah, it
Chili
was
Whack,
Elvis guys.
right?
They were still sort of being chilly whack.
Okay.
They were still, yeah.
How do you get cast in The Fly 2?
Oh, that was crazy. It was one of those auditions where they're like, "You're in labor. Can you do that?" And I was like, "Okay." And they're like, "And it's not going well, and it's traumatic." And I'm like,
Hmm.
"Oh, okay." So I just sort of like acted that out. That's the only thing I did. There was no dialogue. There was no anything. I mean, to be honest, for me at that time, it was always about the handshake. I could always tell when I came into a room and shook their hand what the
Hmm.
connection was, if it felt good, if it
Hmm.
was they were not interested already or whatever. And they were that was cast by Michelle Allen, who had some trust in me at that point. She was awesome. And so they brought me to the set, and it was just a one day give birth and die. And I sort of, it was a very funny contraption in the table to make the belly undulate.
Hmm.
So keep in mind, this is pre CGI. This is pre a lot of things.
Yeah.
And so I'm sitting in the table, right? And
Hmm.
they've got a fake belly with fake legs.
Hmm.
And there's a guy sitting between my legs with two sticks, and the belly is hollow. So he's like from underneath, he's making the belly undulate with these two sticks.
Hmm.
How funny is that?
Yeah. Yeah. Did the belly have a belly button?
I'm sure it did. And then so this is gonna ruin your experience of Szechuan for the rest of your life. Are you ready?
Okay.
So when they take the larva out, when the doctor holds that,
Hmm.
the special effects guys are like, "Do you know what? You see this red stuff? This blood stuff? It was kind of like blood."
Hmm.
And they said, "This is just sweet and sour sauce.
Uh,
This is the thickener is the same thing that they use in the restaurant when you have sweet and sour." And I was like, "I'm never having that again. Never doing that."
uh,
Um, so that was funny. And then I look up, like, this is a full day of screaming, right?
mm,
And sweating and giving birth. And I get out of the table thing, and I'm just like, just ratty, ratty, ratty from the whole shoot. And I look up, and Mel Brooks has been watching the whole time.
wow.
And he's like, sort of just out of the room, but watching everything that we were doing.
Hmm.
And I was like, oh my God. And I just stared at him. He just stared at me. And
Hmm.
I just walked right by. I was so tired. I didn't even try to meet him. I was like,
Oh.
oh, no pressure.
Oh, wow. That's crazy. It's funny.
Yeah.
He's the only one left from the principal cast. Well, he wasn't in it, but he directed Young Frankenstein. He's like the only one left. He's 98 years old.
I know. And was Terry Garr in that? Was that?
Yeah, yep. That was the movie
I
that made her a star.
just, she just passed away, which is
Yeah,
like, I was thinking about all her work. Yeah.
yeah. She was at a con about 9 years ago when I was in the hospital recovering from my accident. I wish I had gone to meet her because her and Cloris Leachman
Oh,
were there. It would have been great to meet both of them. Because I love Young Frankenstein.
yeah. Yeah.
But is it true that you got cast in The Fly 2 because you looked like Gina Davis?
Yeah. Not really. I don't think I look much like her, but at the time it was just fine.
A tiny bit. Are your feet as big as hers?
No, no. I am not as tall. My feet are not as big. I don't think I'm as cute as she is. But
Mhm.
the
You're
um
cute.
I figured that maybe they didn't bring her back because either she wouldn't make enough money
Hmm.
or her being married to Jeff Goldblum, it just felt like a bad vibe on their marriage.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that she didn't want to die in The Fly too after, meeting her husband and getting married
Yeah.
to him, after The Fly. So I didn't know why she didn't come back. Probably money, right? Or
Probably.
scheduling.
It was probably money most likely because she was starting to get some heat after Beetlejuice, and
Yeah, that was great.
that one that her and Goldblum did, Earth Girls Are Easy, probably.
Right, yeah. And I met so that scene, I didn't have any connection with any other cast members except the doctor that delivered the baby. Like it was a big, big day of screaming alone.
Hmm.
But at the wrap party, Eric Stoltz was like, "You're my mommy."
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I got to meet the rest of the cast and Daphne Zuniga and everything at the wrap party. That was the first time I laid eyes on them.
Was
But
was was Daphne nice?
yeah,
Okay.
totally.
I've heard she could be cold, so I was just curious. I'm friends with all her college theater pals at
Ah,
the UCLA, the Actors Gang. Tim Robbins formed. They are the sweetest, nicest people. I don't think any of them are
oh.
in touch with Daphne though.
I think that she seemed to me like she was just quite serious.
Yeah, yeah.
Like not unfriendly, but that she was just serious. She's probably a serious actress, and I was not a serious actress.
Chris Chris
Sure not.
Wayless. I have a story. About 5 years ago, I reached out to him to come on the podcast, and he told me that he was losing his hearing, and he didn't think he could do an audio only interview. He offered to do like an email interview, and by that point, I wasn't doing them anymore. I did a couple of them in the beginning, but I never liked it. I like to actually talk to people. And
Yeah.
just recently, I saw him do a Zoom a podcast interview, and I was like, okay, good for him. I guess that works better for him than doing audio only.
Yeah. When your hearing's going, being able to see people speak is super important. Yeah.
Yeah. So when you got cast in Jason Takes Manhattan, which I call Jason Takes Ontario, were you already a Jason fan?
No, I had no idea. So here's the thing.
Hmm.
My cousin, rest in peace, used to make us watch the odd scary movie at her birthday parties, her
Hmm.
birthday sleepovers. And I just was like tortured by them. So the final straw for me was Children of the Corn. I was like, I'm not doing this. I am not watching these. I'm not okay. And she's like, oh, come on, it's not real. And I was like, it's not
Hmm.
real to you. It's not real to you. My brain thinks it's real. I will dream about this for a month.
Yeah.
And then I'm cast in a horror movie and I'm like, oh God. Um, and the actual shooting of it was totally fun and everything. But there's no way I'm watching the whole thing. I still haven't. I'm too scared.
Yeah, I've met Kane Hodder a few times at conventions. I have an 8x10 of him as Jason in Times Square with the Coca-Cola logo behind him. I love it.
Noise. Yeah, he was really nice. He was a gentle soul.
He's funny.
Um, yeah, and he was like a firefighter, I think,
Yeah,
in another life.
at
Yeah.
one point he was. Yeah, he did like fire stunts, and one almost killed him, and
Yeah.
it was on Days of Our Lives of all sets. He had to like jump off a building like on fire, and he nearly died doing it.
I know he showed me. I mean, his face, you could see scarring. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Um, but still a totally handsome guy, of course. But yeah, he was really nice. He was a sweet person. So I have never run into him because I don't do horror cons.
Yeah.
But I saw um, the guy who does Michael Myers,
Which one? There's many.
Tyler.
Oh, Tyler
Oh,
Maine?
Tyler.
Tyler
Tyler
Maine.
Maine, yeah.
Yeah.
I met him when I was way on the in Atlantic, Canada for a con in April. And he was also one like just a gentle giant. Totally nice.
Yeah. I've interviewed Tiffany Paulson, who was the first victim of the movie. You know, she has that sex scene in the first like 10 minutes of the movie.
Right.
She's a very successful screenwriter, and she's just started directing. A few years ago, she came out with this Netflix holiday romantic comedy called Holiday. I recommend it. It is so hilariously dirty. I didn't expect this to ever come from her, though, because when we were talking, she didn't swear one time. She was very professional, and I was like, wow. It's a very funny holiday movie.
Oh, that's hilarious.
And Barbara Bingham,
Yeah,
yeah, the
right.
curly haired blonde in the movie. I've had her on twice. She's a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah.
Did so did your dad teach you guitar? Were you really playing in the movie?
I got asked that question last weekend,
Mm-hmm.
like about 11 times,
Mm-hmm.
and it makes me smile because I was a singer, but my dad had tried to teach me guitar once, and we never got past tuning it. Partly because he tunes it so fancy,
Mm-hmm.
and it just like scrambles my mind. I'm like, I know I was supposed to practice tuning it last week, but I can't remember how. So we gave up on that. I'm like, he's the guitar player in our family. We'll let him be the virtuoso, and I'll just be a singer.
Mm-hmm.
So this audition comes up, and I'm like air guitaring or whatever. Excuse me, and I think this was Michelle Allen too. She was awesome, casting director. And so I don't know if I talked to him before the audition, but after the audition, I'm like, okay, so I got this part,
Mm-hmm.
and they're sending me a track, and do you think you could teach me the guitar parts? And he's like, oh, sure, yeah. And so I went over and worked with him, and he spent a lot of time with me trying to get my hands in the right place. And they had a fake whammy bar on the guitar because they actually don't have those on Flying V's.
Oh yeah.
So props had, I guess, added that because I'm sure the director was like, it needs to be hot pink and it has to have a whammy bar,
Yeah.
right? Something like
Yeah.
that. And so Dad taught me all of the fingering and all of the where the chords were on the frets and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And then on the actual day, I'm just like, oh my God, please do not feel my hands. Please do not feel my hands. Please do not feel my hands. I was just hoping that I was getting away with it. And apparently, the director still has the guitar.
Oh yeah.
That's what I
I
heard.
was gonna ask you, like, has a fan ever come to you with a replica to sign?
3 times just a few days ago, and one guy's flying across the country to San Jose
Uh-huh.
because on November 8th to 10th, I'm at Fandom Con.
Mm-hmm.
And I wish you lived by San Jose.
I live 2 hours away. I wish I could go. You know, maybe there's hope that I could, but I doubt it. But God, I haven't been to a con in a year now. Just this has been a busy year, and I moved recently and stuff. But you know, we'll see.
Yeah, well, I mean, come on by if you feel like it. And
Of
so there will be
course.
at least one guitar at that one. At one point, there was like 3 different people with guitars that were like, "Where can I get this signed?" So I got a couple of them done in New Jersey, and hoping in California that this guy will show up with his. He's got guitar and a couple other things for me to sign, and
Mm-hmm.
it's just so sweet that people actually put that much effort into getting it done. I think it's amazing. And I met one gal who
Mm-hmm.
has been cosplaying the character of JJ for a few years, which I thought was so cool.
Mm-hmm. Was that your hair or was that a wig?
Oh, that was totally my real hair. They crimped it for 2 hours every time.
Mm-hmm.
It was just 2 days of shooting, but I'm sure I wasn't their favorite person on the second day.
No, I think they loved you. Did you get seasick on the boat?
Nope, that boat wasn't going anywhere. The boat was moored.
I know it's weird. It's weird how Sherry Lansing took over Paramount and Viacom took over, and they were like, "This is the last one," and this was like post actor strike in '88, so that like they're going up to Canada, and it's just like you can just tell it's Canada. It's not New York until he's in Times Square. That's about it.
Yeah, it's Vancouver. It's Vancouver. And
Yeah,
they did most of it in Vancouver, and they did one day in New York. One day.
yeah.
And tell me how, okay?
Hmm.
Tell me how the boat got from the lake to Manhattan. You just tell me that. Does it go under the earth and then down some special little tunnel and then
Hmm.
up and it just pops up in Manhattan? And
Yeah.
how did Jason, with my guitar, okay, so I drop the guitar, he grabs it, he's behind me. How does he wind up being at the bottom of the stairs?
I
And he's
know.
chasing me with it.
It's
Come on,
all
guys.
it's all continuity errors. They didn't think
It's
the
not even continuity errors. It's just like you just have to suspend your
disbelief.
disbelief. Yeah.
Well, they didn't
Because it's
know
Jason.
they didn't know back then that the internet was going to exist and people would actually still be watching these movies.
Just roasting them. Roasting them.
So I
So
didn't I
yeah.
didn't I didn't grow up on the particular cartoons that you've done voices for because I was getting older by then and cartoons had changed. They became more adult like in my world. I started watching The Simpsons and Beavis and Butthead and what have you. So,
Mhm.
like what cartoons have you done voices for that you probably get recognized for the most, like Dragon Ball and all that?
Dragon Ball for sure, and Dragon Ball Z. And but there's other, like there's a couple My Little Pony characters that aren't major characters, but that people, you know, um, certain generations of My Little Pony, because it's gone through all these different generations. There are people that are just obsessed with one of them, and some other anime stuff. But um, the Dragon Ball ones are the ones that I have Funko Pops for,
Hmm.
and people buy those, and I sign them for them. And uh, Kid Goku and Kid Gohan are they're little cuties, and it was so long ago, but people did actually hear that first English version that we did and really connect with it. It's crazy.
Yeah, and yeah, I mean there was like extreme. What was it called? Extreme GI Joe. Like I grew up on the original GI Joe. With Sergeant Slaughter doing the public service announcements at
Yeah,
the end.
yeah, and I guess I was Callisto on X-Men.
Hmm.
And then there was the Kong animated series I thought no one had ever seen. But people are like, I remember Lua from Kong. And I'm like, what? So, yeah, I guess it was all Cartoon Network
RoboCop, Alpha
stuff.
Commando. There was the Ninja Turtles, the Next Mutation. Uh,
Yeah. And Robocop was like this character named Kudzu Bodine. I remember
Ca-
that.
Canada is like the voiceover capital. It has been for a long time with all these animation shows that are based on Hasbro and whatever.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah, it's been amazing. I mean, especially back in the 90s and just sort of crossing over into the early 2000s, the opportunities were insane for people that had developed their voice acting talents and were ready for it. Now everybody wants to be a voice actor. Like they loved cartoons when they were little, and now they want to do it.
Hmm. I know it's
Interesting.
at the point now where everyone's trying to do it.
It is, and I'm teaching them. And at first, when they wanted to hire me as a teacher at this voiceover school, like we have an accredited voiceover school that has a 6 month diploma program, which is insane. We didn't have anything like that back in the day, but
Mm-hmm.
now I'm a teacher there. And at first I thought, what do I have to offer? And how am I going to help these people in this insane business? Like, it just all sounded too much, too crazy. I
Mm-hmm.
couldn't take their money. And then I started teaching them, and we teach them like 10 at a time. And they do like a huge 6-month program. We teach them different types of voiceover,
Mm-hmm.
and realized that they are going to have some actual marketable skills after this.
Yeah.
The problem is there's just like a race to the bottom when it comes to what rates people are paying and
Mm-hmm.
what's out there for a new voice actor. It's not great.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's a voiceover actress, Samantha Paris, that I interviewed. She's had a voiceover teaching studio for 30 plus years now, and she started doing voiceover like right out of high school, like before anybody really knew about it. Like she was lucky to get into the business like right away. And she did some on camera.
That's I
She
Yeah, I
she
was too.
mhm.
The same thing,
She
yeah.
did some on camera too, but not a lot. But she's been, teaching it 30 plus years, and her studio's still there, and it's very successful. And they're teaching the marketing tools of social media and what have you now and stuff. And it's great because, God, so many people's careers just completely died because they weren't business savvy, and now the younger generations can be business savvy.
It's true. And I have to say something
Mm-hmm.
that I was thinking the other day that is so weird, because I only started with social media, like Instagram, say, like in 2 years ago, in 2022.
Mm-hmm.
I started an account for my career. I had only had like little family thing, right? And
Yeah.
then and it was because I was going to a convention after having taken about 20 years off, and raising my boys, and thinking conventions were weird because they were 20 years ago. Um, and I was like, I have a very small account, and
Mhm.
people actually care. They care about how many followers you have, and I don't know if I have the time, and energy to like build it up to the point where
Yeah.
it's a super successful social media. But
Mm-hmm.
I realized that at the time that I was doing that work in the 90s and early 2000s, we did not publicize what work we were doing.
Right.
Firstly, there's always NDAs, right?
Right.
So you don't want to talk about things that haven't come out yet. But also because I didn't want my friends that I was competing with to feel bad if I was working and they were not. So I didn't even talk to my friends half the time about what roles I was doing. I didn't want to brag. I didn't want to uh, make anyone feel badly if they were having trouble, And now everybody just like is pumping themselves up unbelievably. And I was not a self promoter. I was very quiet about my
Mm-hmm.
work. I thought, well, people will see the work or hear the work, and that's how they'll know about it. I don't need to make a big deal out of it. I'm living a good life, but it's really changed, and now I'm like, hey, everybody, I just went to a convention, and it's totally different.
Yeah. Conventions have really blown up and stuff for better or for worse, you know.
Yeah.
So, how long have you had diabetes for?
Oh, I have had diabetes for 48 years,
My
since I
God.
was 8 years old. Yeah, yeah.
I got diagnosed
Um,
2 years ago.
oh, congratulations.
Uh,
Was it type 1 or type 2?
it was type 2. I spent a good 6 months feeling the signs. I ate half pints of ice cream
Oh,
and felt so funky and lethargic afterwards. Thank God I went to a
yeah.
doctor because we caught it in time. And I take metformin, which I'm skeptical of, but I'd rather be taking a pill than poking myself and taking insulin.
Wow. So yeah, it's tricky. And insulin is great to avoid if you can,
Yeah,
because once you get into it, it's a pretty volatile substance.
yeah.
And
It's like any
having
drug.
low blood sugars is so dangerous. That's my one, like, I don't think I'm going to necessarily die of high blood sugar because it would take a while.
Mm-hmm.
But low blood sugar, I mean, it would take a few days
Yeah.
with no insulin for me to die. But for me to die of a low blood sugar is a real possibility. And my mom used to call me if she hadn't heard from me for 24 hours when I was in my 20s, and I'd be like, Mom, and she'd say,
Yeah.
well, I know about a guy who went on a ski trip and never woke up, and I was like, oh God, okay, you can call me.
Yeah. Oh my God, that's awful.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm currently on a diet again because my blood sugar's been very high lately, and I gotta do it. Otherwise, no more podcasts, and I don't want
I
that.
know. We need you well. We need you well. So,
Yeah.
there's, interestingly, there are, besides food and insulin, whether you're
Hmm.
producing it yourself or injecting it, there are a list of about 45 other factors. Do you know that if you're dehydrated, your blood sugar will go up?
Oh yes,
Did you know that if you're in the hot sun, it will go down? Isn't that crazy?
I didn't even realize that about the sun. Wow, that's interesting.
So, look into that, and I hope that that gives you some self-compassion when you realize there are things that are happening hormonally. There are things like all these different stressors. One will make you get high blood sugar, one will make you get low blood sugar.
Hmm.
And if you understand that, it's really helpful, because one of the most frustrating things about diabetes, whether you're type 1 or 2 or 1.5, is that you're trying so hard to control everything, and some of it just won't be controlled.
Yeah.
It's not all in your control. Even though you're the only one who can do this management, there are going to be moments, it's like you need to do a serenity prayer, you know?
Yeah. I'm hoping in our lifetime we'll see some kind of cure that doesn't require surgery or something.
Yeah, that would be great. But in the meantime, if you come across a healthy diabetic, they are really healthy people
Hmm.
because they've
Absolutely.
worked for it. Yeah.
Yeah.
You have good support? Like,
Oh
you
yeah.
have a team?
My mom,
Good.
my mom has it. She had it much worse years ago. She had gastric bypass surgery years ago because she literally had no choice. She was in her middle ages and she had to get healthy again. And so I got her a good support, and everybody else supports it as well.
That's good. And like, worst case scenario, nowadays you wouldn't need gastric bypass. You could use something like Monjaro or one of those,
Hmm.
is this semi-glutides or something, but it's just a matter of having access to those, like, for ongoing access to those.
Yeah,
A lot of people.
there's like a shot or something I became aware of recently that you get the shot and then you start dropping weight like rapidly, and of course you have to exercise and eat healthy in the process, but it's a big booster.
It is a big, what it does is gives people momentum and solves some of the hormonal puzzle,
Hmm.
which is really nice. So you might really, if you're having a hard time with your blood sugars, that might really be a nice thing to do for yourself.
Yeah, worst comes to worst. So
Yeah.
real quick, we gotta play my secret silly game. This is a series of silly slumber party questions. It's no win or lose, it's just pure fun. And how the game works
Okay.
is I ask you the question, you answer it, and then you ask me that exact same question and I answer it. And feel free to comment on the answers because they might be funny.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Okay. I
S-
think I get it.
Saffron, are you ticklish?
That depends. That depends. I can handle it on my feet, but nowhere else on my body.
Okay.
Tommy, are you ticklish?
Oh, yes, but if you tickle me without warning, I might hit you in the groin.
Oh, we got a puncher.
Yeah. Is your belly button an innie or an outie?
is an innie? Is your belly button an innie or an outie?
It is also an innie. What color are your toenails painted?
Oh, sparkly gold. What color are your toenails painted?
They are orange and black, and after Halloween, they will be brown.
Love this.
Yes. What would you say is your best personality trait?
Oh, oh, huh. Interesting. Oh, I mean, it's not like there's nothing good about me, but I'm not thinking of them right now. Maybe my wisdom.
You're very
What is your
insightful. Yes.
or I want to say my caring because I do care a lot. That's tricky. That's tricky. But those are two things that are important to me anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Whether I exhibit them both all the time or not is another thing altogether. What is your best personality trait?
I'm a Gemini, so I have empathy and I have no filter.
Fantastic.
Yes. If you could have one thing named after you, what would it be?
Oh, probably a spice that people put in rice or curry.
Interesting.
Kidding. I'm
Interesting.
kidding. I'm kidding. No, I could have one thing named after me. What would it be? Probably a drink that you could have in the morning with caffeine that doesn't raise your blood sugar but tastes really good and isn't coffee. That's what I'd like named after me.
Okay.
How about you? What would you like named after you?
A vibrator.
Insane.
Yeah. Just a little manifestation of my queerness. And then my favorite question, is there a stinky smell that just makes you gag?
Oh. Now I'm thinking about all the stinky smells because I have a very sensitive nose when I don't have a cold.
Me too.
Like hyper sensitive.
I'm Italian on my mom's side. We have very sensitive noses.
Yes. I think it would be rotting, just rotting of biological matter.
Ugh. Roadkill?
Just anything rotting. Especially if it's not out in the open air.
Mm-hmm.
Can't do it.
Okay. And then for me, it's either farts.
Yeah.
It's either farts or feet.
Oh, both of those are spectacular. Do you ask everybody the same questions?
Oh yeah, I played the Secret Silly game with other open-minded ladies. So, do you have anything else upcoming? Any like voiceover stuff, or and like I know Fandom Con is coming up. Do you have any other cons you're doing?
There are a couple of things potentially next year, but I haven't signed contracts for any of them, and a lot of the stuff that I do is somewhat last minute because I never know what's going on with the rest of my work. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And voiceover wise, I don't generally talk about projects that are,
of course,
that are in the works so much. But yeah.
But nevertheless,
yeah, and I do.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead.
But nevertheless, everything's all good.
Yeah, it's all good. There's lots going on. There's definitely, it's a busy life, and the fact that we're celebrating the stuff that we did 30 years ago more than the stuff we're doing today just says to me that those were special times when people went into theaters, and special times when we had more attention span, and special times when there weren't that many choices on TV after school,
Mm-hmm.
and people really connected to that stuff. And now I know that, young people now are connecting with the content we are putting out now, but the dedication from fans of the stuff that we did 20 and 30 years ago
Yeah.
is mind blowing, because this is a different era and they liked that era,
Yeah.
right? So
It.
all those beautiful memories that come with media like songs or shows or whatever really impress me.
It's tremendous, and I'm not offended by anything that was said or done on screen in the past. I know a lot of the kids who are younger than me are, and what have you, and you see all this toxicity online of fandom, but I don't engage or participate in it. I just take it as is, and they try to erase the past, which is evil, I think.
Well, it, there's erasing it and they're saying, look how far we've come. Like
Yeah.
that was acceptable then, it's not acceptable now. And if people feel hurt by it now, I really understand. Like one of the voices that I did for an anime show was like a straight up Asian accent that was culturally appropriating. And it was 20 years ago or more, and people weren't concerned with that.
Mm-hmm.
But even at the time, I felt like I was stealing something by doing that voice, and it was totally in fun.
Mm-hmm.
But now it's like when people bring up that character, I feel like a tiny tinge of shame. And I've had Asian students and Asian friends say, you know what? We don't care. That
Oh
I
yeah.
realized that was then. I don't think you would do that now. And I say, excuse me.
Mm-hmm. I
And
would.
I say,
Mm,
you're ding dang right. I would not do it right now. I just would feel too uncomfortable. But at the
yeah.
time, that wasn't the consciousness. Now we do things differently, and I appreciate that. I think representation's important. I think that cultural appropriation is an issue, and it's better, like, be better to have an Asian character do an Asian accent, who is an actual Asian person. And I would step aside for that any day of the week. So we have grown and changed. It doesn't negate the media that we had, but it is important to point it out and say, that makes me uncomfortable if you feel uncomfortable, right?
Yeah, I think your friends are right though. I think that you weren't punching them down. You were complimenting them. You were giving them a voice, and perhaps they didn't have much of a voice back then. That's the way I look at it. Same thing with Al Jolson doing
Huh.
blackface. I thought that the African American community didn't have a voice back then, and he gave them a voice. Whereas there were some blackface performers that I'm sure were truly racist.
Yeah, yeah, it's probably true.
Yes.
Yeah. So we've come a long way, baby, as they used to say with the cigarette ad.
Yeah. Saffron, you are so wonderful. Thank you so much for coming on today. And if somehow by a miracle I get to go to Fandom Con next weekend, I will let you know. If not, it'll happen in the future. I will see you in person.
Fantastic. I look forward to it. Be healthy.
I
Have a
will.
great, yeah, have a great week. And thank you so much for the chat. It was really
Yes.
fun.
Yes. Happy Halloween too.
Ooh, happy Halloween to you.
Okay. Bye bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Well, there you have it. Saffron Henderson, ain't she a sweetheart? Oh my God, wonderful lady, and just so passionate about what she does, and so aware of what's going on in the world. I'm so glad that we had that conversation, and wow, that got heavy at the end there. But I think she respected my point of view, and I respected her point of view just as much, and I'm really glad that we got to talk today. Well, Until next time, this is Tommy Throwback Kovac saying there's no shame in living in the past because the present sucks. Later, dudes.